Thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us. I sure appreciate it. I want to get you on the screen here. Could you say something so that I make sure that you come up on the screen?
Yes, I am here.
There we go. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. You're going to be a terrific guest. We're going to learn a lot from you.
I don't know about that.
I know about that. Okay. I'm just going to do a quick intro for the tape. Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that actively promote women, and we would do that in mass, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what Purse Power is trying to do. And again, these podcasts that we do are to connect you with the national leaders, get some great speakers to share their insights, connect you with each other, and just help women in general and female entrepreneurs in particular just succeed, thrive, and strive. Okay, we do a networking session every fourth Friday of the month. Our next networking session that's live is on May 27th. And please do share this with your friends and colleagues. Again, we do this every Friday at 10. So I'll introduce Kelly. Please share your comments as we go via chat. And then would you please ask your questions in the question block at the bottom of your screen? That just helps us make sure that we're focused on them and that we incorporate them. You can go ahead and ask your questions as you go, and we'll try to incorporate those in the conversation. So Kelly Dyer Fry retired early in 2021 after a 26-year career with the Oklahoman. She's a third-generation Oklahoma journalist, and she grew up and began her career with her family's newspaper, the El Reno Tribune, which is fascinating, Kelly. Wow, you've been doing this for a long time. All right, well, at the Oklahoman, she served in several different capacities. She started as a features editor in 1994 and became the managing editor and later general manager of the Oklahoman's digital efforts, which is part of the transition that she hopefully will talk about today. She led the team that launched News OK, which started as a converged website for the Oklahoman and KWTV News 9. She was promoted to Vice President of Multimedia, Vice President of News, Editor, and ultimately Editor and Publisher in 2019. And in 2019, Gannett purchased the Oklahoman, and she was promoted to a regional editor for the Sunbelt region of Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado. And she'll talk about that transition as well. She's a member of the Oklahoma Journalism Hall of Fame and has been honored for her work with addiction and mental illness within her community. And I know she's got a lot of insight to that as well. She now works for the Mental Health Association of Oklahoma as a development director for Oklahoma City. So that's Kelly. Anything else you want to add on your bio?
No, but I need to go lay down.
You've been busy. All right, you've been busy. Okay, to begin with, we always want to get to know you. We want to find out about your fascinating career and the difference that you've been making for decades. So please give us a high-level overview.
Gosh, I was kind of just born into journalism. I grew up around conversations at the dinner table. I remember being in college changing majors a lot, and finally I settled on journalism because I thought, well, it's so easy, I can do that. Well, I didn't realize that really I just kind of had a natural ability, and so I found it. And I stayed home with my kids, and I published the Okarche Chieftain for like 8 years, went to Okarche 2 days a week, and did their newspaper while my kids were little, and then kind of made my way back to the Oklahoman, and I had a wonderful mentor in Sue Hale, and I just kind of followed along behind Sue, and she opened a lot of doors and opportunity for me. So I owe a lot of my career to Sue. And at the Oklahoman, or anywhere really, if you've got your head down working hard, additional responsibility will find you. And so that's just, I never had a career plan. I never aspired to be the editor or the publisher. I just was focused on what I was doing at any given time. And I just kept getting tapped on the shoulder. So I just kind of rolled along. And finally, during 2020, it was just, all the upheaval in the industry and the change in ownership and all of that. I decided that I wasn't going to be able to save journalism or save the newspaper. And I knew I wanted to do something else. I knew I wanted a second act, and I was, had hit the 60 milestone and hung in there a while longer. And I thought, I better jump now. Plus they were offering a nice buyout across the company. So I raised my hand and I took it. And now I'm at the Mental Health Association. So, and I'm also director of communications there now. So see, like everything else, you sign on for one thing and next thing you know, you're doing more. So
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I just said I'm enjoying it.
Good,
So.
good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I'm glad you're here and we can learn a lot from you and your career. The media landscape has changed pretty dramatically. And I know that you were at the helm of the Oklahoma Media Company when you guys were transitioning from simply printing a paper to the whole digital world. That's key. I mean, that transition. Tell me the learnings that you gained from that.
You know, funny story. Mr. Gaylord, Sue actually went over online first to lead up the digital efforts. And I was the features editor at the time. And so she called me, and she had worked for my family in El Reno for a period of time. That's where she and I initially met. So she called me, and I was at a conference in San Antonio. The phone, I'd just gotten out of the shower. So I grabbed the telephone and I hear Ed Kelly's booming voice. And he said, I have Sue Hill here in the office with me, and we want to talk to you. Well, first thing I did was grab a towel, because I'm like, I can't talk to these people standing here like this. Anyway, they said, Sue needs your help. We want you to go over and help her with the digital efforts. And so the only thing I'd done online was like search my name in a search engine, and like nothing came up. And anyway, I didn't even know. I had no idea what I was doing. But I always believe that if opportunity comes your way, you raise your hand and then you figure out what the heck you're doing.
Yeah.
I did that. And so Mr. Gaylord had said, and this was like 1995, 96-ish. So Mr. Gaylord had said he didn't know what the heck this thing was, but he would give Sue 3 years and $3 million a year, $1 million a year, to see if this was just going to be a fad.
Oh.
So obviously it was not. And so a year after I got down there, before News OK, the Oklahoman had an outside editor, which never really worked out very well for them. And so they wanted to let him go. And so I walk into work one day, and Ed Martin is in Sue's office, and they call me in there, and I'm like, and so Ed said, Sue's going to the newsroom to be the editor, and we want you to take over Oklahoman.com is what it was at the time. And he said, you think you can do that for us? And I said, well, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I always think I can do anything. So I took that job over, and it was like pulling teeth the first several years, because we were viewed as experimental. We were on the 3rd floor. Actually, EK second, Eddie, is the one who teamed up with David Griffin to start News OK. I was completely opposed to it. I said, I don't know. Ultimately, we will be giving away half the farm and of our digital efforts. And I said, it's not going to work. But I was a single mom, and I learned when to keep my mouth shut. So I did. And a few years later, it did fall apart because they didn't want to give away half the farm. And but I would go to the newsroom, and I would say, I remember one time there were helicopters buzzing around Broadway Extension. I can't remember the circumstances, but it was a big news event. So I go to the newsroom, and I said, I need a story. I want to put it up now. And he's Mike Shannon, who's a very dear friend of mine. He leaned back in his chair, he put his cowboy boots up on the desk, and he said, you can have that story tomorrow morning when our readers get it. So that didn't sit well with me. So I just continued to storm up there. And so they were ignoring me. They just kind of dismissed, like, oh, it's that internet thing. And I kept ringing the bell, sounding the alarm, saying, this is happening. You can't stop it. You've got to do something. You've got to embrace it. And it was just, they were still making tons of money, and they just kept me at arm's length. So I would just take an AP version and put it up. And that really made the newsroom mad, because I was using the AP story instead of their story. I'd say, well, you give me one. So eventually they did start giving me one. And I complained vigorously to, then it was David Thompson at the helm. And next thing I know, if you complain too much about something, sometimes they'll say, well, I'll just give it to you and you can see what you do with it. So that's what happened. So watch what you asked for. And so I went to the newsroom and as vice president of the news at that time, and I brought the newsroom along and I created a digitally focused newsroom. I mean, it was an evolution, but we got there eventually. And we built our first studio after we split with News 9 because I knew our viewers liked video. So we built a video studio and I went to the newsroom and I said, I want everybody on camera. I said, every reporter, if you're doing a story, every reporter has to produce at least one video because, you know, we want everybody to understand the studio and understand the process. Well, the food editor had a panic attack at the time. So I'm like, okay, Sharon, you don't have to go on camera anymore. And then I started looking at the video footage that they were actually doing. And I said, okay, everybody off camera. Because they were all in print and it just did not translate well to a video camera. So, of course, I had Dave Morris, my very capable partner in crime. And so he started doing most all of our videos. So it was a wonderful process. And then, of course, 2008 is when I went to the newsroom and got everything going. And by 2009, everything was tanking in our industry. Because Craigslist had taken over, we lost our classified franchise, we were losing advertisers left and right. And then that's when the whole upheaval started in the industry. So I thought I was going to, because I was general manager at News OK and had financial responsibilities. And I thought, oh, I'm going to the newsroom. This will be so fun. I don't have to worry about all the money. I just can be creative and do wonderful journalism. Well, then the bottom fell out and I was back at the budget looking for savings. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that's really tumultuous. And I've been in industries that have gone through that. I was in the computer industry and the telecom industry, and that driving change through that chaos is hard, right? When it's changing all around you, you don't know where you're going to end up. Did you have any learnings that would translate into other environments, do you think, in terms of leading change?
You know, I'm very adaptable to change. And I had to learn to be. You know,
Yeah.
but short attention span. So, and I tried to do it with such great respect and reverence for not only our product and our readers, but for the people. So I would scour that budget for any savings I could find, you know, renegotiated contracts I just scraped every penny together and I took that budget from $22 million down to $6 million. And that involved a lot of people, to a lot of wonderfully people. And so I guess the lesson I learned was there is creativity in growing something, also creativity in dismantling something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a key point, is that there's always opportunity in change. It can be rough, right? But there's opportunity there if you're looking for it.
Right. And just like the pandemic forced us all to make really fast changes, it worked out okay. When you don't have a lot of choice in what is necessary to keep the business alive, you can get very creative and you find alternative ways of doing things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you have any sense of where things are going now, where that industry, the whole media industry, is going? And then as female business owners and leaders, how do we capitalize on the changes that may be coming down the road?
You know, we all need to be worried about journalism. We all need to be worried about it, because if we don't support journalism, we just have to find a different way to support it. Our advertising dollars used to support it. And now your advertising dollars may be better invested digitally. But we all, as business owners and as entrepreneurs, we need to find ways to support our local media, because without them, the cost is just way too high. If nobody's minding the store, there used to be a Capitol press corps. There were just, tens of people out at the Capitol covering it. There was a giant press newsroom. Well, that's dwindled down to just a small group of people. And that's not enough. That's not enough. There's not enough people up asking questions saying, what now? Tell me about this Swadley's deal. Those kinds of things. And so the public looks up and says, how did that happen? Who was watching? Well, we used to have, scads of journalists who were watching. And so we don't have that as much, and we can see the repercussions of things happening behind closed doors that nobody knows about. But, I think I would just say digitally, is the way the world is going. There's nothing anyone can do about it. You can't control it. You can't stop it. It's evolving. It's very exciting. You can finally reach out and actually tap the people on the shoulder you want to talk to. And so it's too hard. And the analytics that come with it are too powerful. But I would say embrace all of that, but don't forget about journalism and a way to support it.
Yeah, no, that's critical. We've got to have people holding everyone accountable. We really do. Or else, what happens if we don't?
Well, swaddlies. Things like that, where nobody was reviewing. Reporter used to sit down and review things like that and attend those very small meetings where those kinds of things might be brewing and start asking questions. And sometimes asking the questions was enough to slow something down or stop somebody from talking about it. But, there's not enough people anymore watching what's going on. And it's just sad. It's sad to me that things will be more and more behind closed doors, and the taxpayers, the voters, will not be engaged in a lot of those conversations.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. All right. So I really, really admired your courage when you talked about your son's story and raise awareness of drug and alcohol addiction. Mm-hmm. With the pandemic, the opioid crisis, things have gotten worse. What do you think needs to happen to turn this around?
Gosh, it's worse than ever. It's just worse than ever. In the last 2 months, I have attended funerals for 2 young men, both who died too young through struggles of addiction.
Yeah.
Very family friends who lost their sons. And I heard the statistic yesterday on NPR that someone is dying every 5 minutes of an overdose across this country. And that is higher, than we've seen in the past. And fentanyl, people are dropping like flies. Fentanyl is just killing, well over 100,000 people a year. So it's just, if we had a plane crash every day, we'd all be talking about it and it'd be covering the news. But, overdose deaths are not as maybe sexy as a plane crash, but the numbers, we're losing tremendous numbers of people. We're losing more people to overdoses than in car accidents. So it's a tragedy in our country now. If people getting information out to people about addiction and about just that educational point of it, and then arming people. People need Narcan. We need to get Narcan out in every possible way we can. We get fentanyl test strips out in every possible way we can. So it just needs to be elevated. It's not getting enough attention. Our state notoriously fails when it comes to mental health. Just underfunded. That was one of the topics we focused on a lot at the newspaper. And Jacqueline Cosgrove was a reporter here, and she dug into it for a year. And I gave her the time to dig into it for a year. And she wrote a series of articles called Epidemic Ignored. And she tracked it throughout our state. And it has been underfunded and under-respected and pushed aside throughout the history of our state. And it shows. It shows. Just like all our health outcomes, we're a very unhealthy state. So why wouldn't our brains also be unhealthy?
What can we do about that? What can the people on this call do about that?
I think asking questions, or if you are an employer, talk to your HR. Let me close my door. My little
Sure. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I've actually heard that the mental health related deaths are up 22% this year. Or something.
Everything is up. It's just a tragedy what is going on. But your HR departments, if they're not, if you're working with insurer, who has no respect for mental health or substance abuse, you need to ask them the hard questions. You need to say, why are we not covering this? Because they're not. They're not. And we don't have a structure in government where we have a strong insurance commissioner who actually enforces things. And so we've got, major healthcare employers or major healthcare provider insurance companies that are not doing it. So that's very critical, very critical. We need to be holding them accountable and
yeah, absolutely. All right. All right. So let's see here. You're really resilient. You've faced a lot of adversity. You're very resilient in the face of all that. How did you get the ability to roll with whatever life has thrown at you? And do you have any secrets to success in doing that?
I'm a middle child of 6 kids.
Okay.
And, I just come from a long line of very strong-willed women. My grandmother, my sisters. I mean, we just believe in, you keep marching. You just keep marching.
Well, and the other thing, the whole sisterhood thing, I mean, helps too, right? I mean, you've got friends and family around you that help support you. Go ahead.
Your girlfriends. I mean, that's like the most critical part of your just the strength that women get from women.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't think so.
Oops, somebody said mute, not on mute. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you. Okay.
But it just the power of women banding together is just like purse power. Dawn, I remember when you were conceptualizing this and we talked about it, and I thought, wow, what an amazing concept. But that's where the strength is when we stand together. I heard somebody talking the other day about how we do things even to ourselves, how we group like working moms and stay-at-home moms. Can't we just say we're all moms?
Yes. Yes. Women need to support each other and rather than go after each other. Amen.
Don't categorize. So yeah, I think I love what you all are doing.
Good. Okay, very good. So one of the things small business owners or any kind of business needs is earned media. I mean, that's less expensive and more valuable. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you get earned media? How do people find you, want to talk about you? I mean, how do we put ourselves forward for that?
It's interesting because it's not as hard as you think it is.
Okay.
If you say there's an area and you know who the writer is that covers, send them an email, invite them to coffee. They'll come. Invite them to coffee, get to know them, compliment their work, say, hey, good job on this story. I noticed, you do a good job on this beat. Build a relationship with that reporter because it's not as hard to do as you think it is. A lot of them are very receptive to meeting with people and because they want to build their sources, they want to build their network. And so reach out to individual reporters one-on-one. And just tell them what you do. Tell them, give them a hook, give them a story hook. They're all under pressure, especially television reporters. They're under pressure every day. Come up with something, come up with something, come up with something. So you build that relationship and before you know it, they'll call you and say what's going on. Yeah. So pitch them ideas. Don't rely on a press release. They get a jillion of them. I mean, a jillion of them. And never paper a newsroom. Don't ever send a press release to like everybody in the newsroom. Build a relationship with one person. Maybe it's even a news director at a TV station. You can get a news director on the phone and visit. So it's not as hard as you think it is.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you guys have been really receptive. When I've worked with Paula, for example, we invited her to several events and you gave us a lot of visibility for these women's events. And that was amazing.
Right. Well, Paula was great at building relationships with people. As are you.
Thank you. All right, let's see here. So I want you to talk a little bit about your role right now with the Mental Health Association. So tell us more about what you're doing over there and what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, when I retired from the paper, I knew I wanted to do something, but I was going to just really take some time off, at least a few months. Well, Terry White calls me, and Terry and I had been partners in crime in other projects. She and I, Reggie Whitten and Dr. Murali Krishna, we were the force behind Arcadia Trails Addiction Center. And so Terry and I, and at the paper, we had band together to accomplish a lot around mental illness and addiction. So she called, and she had just taken on that role a few months earlier as CEO at Mental Health Association Oklahoma. So she called me like 3 weeks and said, or no, she called me when she heard I was retiring, and she's like, come work for me. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? And she said, well, you raised a lot of money for Arcadia Trails. We are always having to raise money because we just, we don't get the funding. And so I said, okay, I can do that. And I'm like, I don't really want to work Friday. And she's like, I don't care. And I'm like, I don't flexible schedule. And she's like, I don't care. Just, come help me. So I couldn't really say no. And so I started there 3 weeks after I retired, but I just fell in love with the organization. And my pillars of things I'm passionate about are homelessness, mental illness, addiction, and justice reform. Well, that's what Mental Health Association Oklahoma focuses on. And so it just lined up, their passion, my passion. And then the more I was around all of those people and the work they did, I was just blown away. And then, of course, the communications director left. So Terry, of course, says, well, you can do that too, can't you? So doing that. But I love it, and I'm back really working full time, but it's like volunteer work that I'm getting paid to do. So not at the level I was making before, but it's very rewarding work, very rewarding. And it just lines up with all of my passions.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, it's been a rough couple of years for people where we're talking about suicide rates being up, drug and alcohol abuse being up. Your organization is asking people to stand in and speak out for their communities. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you're asking people to do?
Well, we're really just asking them to stand in and speak out for the people that need help, because like our mental health assistance line, calls were up 40% in 20 and 21. I mean, that is the national MHA. They have kind of screenings on their website. You can take self-screenings. Those were up like, 80%. I mean, the number people reaching out for help, the numbers are just exploding. It's harder and harder to find an appointment with a counselor or someone to assist you. So everything just started skyrocketing. And, we had to change the way we did things during the pandemic, but like our student mental health screenings, those numbers are climbing significantly. I mean, the Surgeon General just came out with a report about the crisis of mental health with our youth. So it was just, everything just started exploding. So, we are always passionate about reducing the stigma and just getting people to talk about it. I mean, it's if you don't talk about something, you can't address it. Mm-hmm. There was a time, women, when people didn't talk about breast cancer, and now we all wear pink ribbons and go on big runs. So mental health needs to reach a point like that where it's widely discussed and widely accepted as an illness or a disorder that we share. So just the pandemic, it just turned everything upside down and shook it, as it did for all of us. Yeah. But health has greatly exacerbated.
Do you find that it's getting better? I mean, is it getting better to talk about mental illness?
I do think the discussion of it is better. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, like when I wrote my story about my son, mm-hmm. Everywhere I went, and I mean, I could be in Walmart, picking out vegetables. People would come up to me and they would touch me on the shoulder and they would whisper very quietly. They would say, thank you for doing that story. That's my story too.
Wow.
And I would say, you don't need to whisper. There's no shame in the disease of addiction. You didn't cause it. You can't stop it. And it's in almost every family. Mm. And so over time, people got less and less secretive about it. But the day that story ran, I got over 100 emails just that morning. And I answered every one of them. And they were people I knew who were sharing their struggles that they'd never shared before. Mm-hmm. So, as time has gone on, I have seen it open up more. And now you're hearing a lot about it. But hearing about it and owning it are two different things.
Yeah.
Still carries the shame.
Mhm. Mhm.
It should not.
Right, right. And looking at it as if it is a physical ailment and treating it the same way, we got to make that transition somehow.
We do. I mean, it should be, another vital sign, I mean, primary care doctors should be doing a quick depression screening because it's just so prevalent.
Mhm. Mhm. So Deborah is saying, it seems to me that the younger generation is a lot more open about talking about mental health issues, that there's less stigma for younger people. What's your sense of that?
I totally agree. I the younger people, I think they'll talk about anything. So, and I think that goes with it, but you'll hear them express, I'm struggling with anxiety, or I'm depressed. I mean, we didn't use those words, when we were that age, and I think it's helping. I think just the more people talk about it, the more open it is, the more it's covered by the media, the more it changes the dialogue, in our country.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So I've got three 22-year-olds, as you know, and they talk like that too. And I thought, okay, is it more prevalent now? Or is it just that we're more aware of it now and more willing to talk about it now?
Well, right now, I think it's more prevalent just because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I do believe the level of awareness has gone up. And I do believe it's giving people the vocabulary and the words to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. Hey, you guys, go ahead and take yourself off mute and put yourself back on camera. And Jennifer, if you're willing, I know that Chesapeake had a huge initiative around hiring people with mental health issues or doing something for employees with mental health issues. Are you willing to talk about that? I'm hoping that Jennifer's still there. And if you know about it, Kelly, maybe you can share.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'm trying to place when we did that. And what I will actually remind everybody that during kind of the Great Recession, Aubrey had a couple of friends that took their own lives, and it really hit him hard. And he realized that, just as Kelly has been saying, these people are suffering in silence and won't talk about it. And so, under Martha's leadership in the HR department, there were several people in the HR department that had that were very knowledgeable about mental health issues. And Martha at one point, I think she served in some capacity with the Department of Mental Health and had a real passion for that as well. And so we created sort of what was called Your Life Matters camp. And it wasn't a campaign. That's not the right word to use. But it was called Your Life Matters. And we promoted the employee assistance line, which, that's really easy to do. And, I don't know if that did much. But we also did a lot of learnings, a lot of lunch and learns, a lot of, we had theaters on the Chesapeake campus where we would, in the blue room and the green room, and we would bring speakers in, and people would come in droves and listen to what people were saying. Dr. Krishna was one of those people that came, and, we just kind of continued to program and to message and to talk around that theme. And, Martha would be so much better to talk about the outcomes. But, Kelly, just like you said about people whispering to you in the supermarket, I mean, people would, openly express to Martha and her team, thank you for this effort, because this is me. This is, my life. These are my struggles, or these are my family struggles. And, it was incredibly meaningful and powerful. And we had a committee that would meet with Aubrey on a regular basis, just talk about employee issues, employee benefits, employee compensation, that sort of thing. And it became kind of a regular report out in that meeting. And, he wanted to hear what we were hearing. He needed, I think it was more, maybe it was, selfish on his part, which that's totally fine if it was, but he needed to feel like we were making a difference. We really, I say we, the organization and the efforts of that group, they really did. But it is remarkable, I think, and unfortunate, I guess, let's say, that sometimes it has to come from the top before people think they can talk about it in the workplace, or they can actually seek help through resources. Because I think the company, the size that we were at the time, we had over 13,000 employees. That company is much smaller today, but with 13,000 employees, the fear is, of course, that, somebody's going to know you have issues or you need help, and you're going to get put on some list or something, and you're going to be disadvantaged in some way. And so there was a concerted effort to try to make sure everyone knew this is real. This is something that we're concerned about. We care about your life matters. That was the name of the program. And all of this we're doing because we care about you, we care about your family, we care about the situations you may be in with friends, family, and don't be quiet about it, be active about it. So probably droned on a little too long there, but it was a great program. And, had Aubrey been able to stay at Chesapeake, we'd still be doing it there.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of employers right now are trying to figure this out. And you guys had a model that worked. You were ahead of the curve on it. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Other questions or comments, guys?
So I'd like to make a comment and kind of solicit feedback. So as a wellness professional trained at Mayo Clinic, everybody has struggled during the pandemic. I'm not a mental health professional, but I've seen that everyone has struggled in one way or another. But in terms of serious mental health issues, most people are impacted by loved ones who struggle with that. I attended an event one time with 2,000 women. They had speakers. The speaker said, okay, everyone who's been impacted by loved ones' mental health issues, stand up. I saw one person out of the thousands there still sitting down. So everybody's been affected by it. And one of my deep concerns as someone who supports people in well-being and wellness, there's the person who's struggling with mental illness significantly, but there's everyone around them who is struggling as well in reaction and support of them. And I just wonder, Kelly, if that's being addressed at all that you know of. What about this ripple effect that goes into the families, that goes into the community, where one person is suffering, so those around them are suffering? If you have any thoughts on that, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, they always say addiction is a family disease. You don't function in, if you're the addict, alcoholic. And so there are support for families. There's Al-Anon, which I think everyone in the world should go through Al-Anon, just because it teaches you about not being so codependent. It teaches you that you don't control somebody else, and you take care of yourself, and you let other people take care of themselves. So there's great lessons there, but there are support groups for families. There's NAMI, especially, and it's so, like Parents Helping Parents in Edmond was started in Edmond, and now it's spread so many places, but it's just people helping people. And you've got to have that. You cannot fight, or you really can't endure it without a network of support.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. I was trying to get one of my daughter's friends to go to an Al-Anon meeting. She's struggling with a family member that's having issues. And my daughter was saying, no, she needs individual counseling. And I thought, okay, there's some benefit to being in a group.
There absolutely is benefit to being in a group. There was a woman, her name was Jo Bina. And I went to Al-Anon several years ago, and I'm not kidding. I could walk in on any given day, and it was as if she was channeling God directly to me. I mean, whatever she talked about was resonating with me. It was just like she was speaking to me. And just the power of that group, and the tidbits you pick up, mine was just a women's group and there were only about 8 women in there, but it was so powerful, just the connections you make with just the smallest thing that somebody else might share.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Deborah, of course, is commenting that you find out you're not alone, right, in your struggles, and that's really supportive. That's a relief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very good. Other comments or questions, guys? Okay. Well, what I'd like you to do, if you would please, is could you please share your top 3 learnings that you want us to have gained from you today, and then the top 3 actions you want us to take?
Ooh, wow. Let's see. Learnings, that's a challenge for me. I don't know that I have anything to teach somebody. I'd always just say, I'm just going to say, keep marching, because sometimes strength is the only thing you have and you don't have any other choice. But the women on this group, they don't need to hear that, because I think you all know it. Actions. I would like all of you to raise hell about the insurance industry not respecting mental health or even maintaining parity in our state. They're skirting it and we're allowing it to happen. So I want you to raise hell about it. I want you to talk to your HR people about, before you make a selection about who you want to be your provider, know what they do around mental health and addiction, and hold them accountable. I would, of course, I want you all to send money.
Give us the website, or put it in the chat, either one.
MHAOK.org/donate. But, one thing we didn't talk about, Donna, is housing first, because if people that are homeless, and I've been out in the encampments last Monday and Friday, we have street outreach teams and mobile medical teams that go out, boots on the ground, but we try to get people a roof over people's heads. You can't address anything unless you have a roof over your head. We can't move you forward with your medication. We can't move you forward with counseling. We can't move you forward in finding a job. We can't move you forward to get sober if all you're worried about living on the street is, where am I going to find food? Where am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? Nothing else matters when you're living on the street except those. And we have many, many people on the street who need insulin. And so that is one of the things that our mobile medical team will be doing once we get a PA on board with them. So those things are critical. Inhalers, those things are critical. So I would just say, wherever you want to support mental health, I hope you'll do it proactively, because there's so much need.
Yeah, very, very good. Well, this has been terrific. I deeply appreciate you being here, and you're a role model for all of us. So thank you again. And thank you for your insights. Anything else you want to share before I close up?
I just have to ask, my screen froze earlier. And Jennifer, you were saying in December, I'm going to something for 6 months. And then my screen froze. What are you going to be doing for 6 months?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Martha and I are going on a cruise, a 6.5-month cruise around the world. We are going off the grid. We were getting on a ship in Florida that's going to take us all around the world and back to San Francisco in July.
Not to share, because I will live vicariously through you and Martha for 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, and you got, several of you probably know her. So we're trying to figure out, we not being very high tech people are trying to figure out what, how can we create, some sort of blog, or we're not bloggers, definitely, but, something where our dear friends and, can follow us and vicariously go through our journey and hear the trials and tribulations we experience. So yeah, you'll definitely be on that list.
Oh, yeah. What a blast. What a blast. I just got back from the cruise. Go ahead.
We're so exciting. Yeah. My position with the state ends at the end of the year, and then off we go. So
good for you.
Yay. Yeah, we're excited. It's her 70th birthday trip. So it's a big deal for us.
All right.
Yeah. Very good. We do want you to have a blog and let the rest of us know how it's going. So we got to figure out how to do that.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So I just want to let you know upcoming guests. On May 20th, I have Nyla Khan, Dr. Nyla Khan. She is a professor at Oklahoma City Community College, and she's a state commissioner for the Oklahoma Commission on the Status of Women. She is from Kashmir, and we're going to be talking about the resilience and resourcefulness of the women in Kashmir and how that might apply to us. On the 27th, we've got our networking session. On June 3rd, I have Robin Gunn. She is the owner at the Oklahoma Senior Journal. She's got a radio program. She's amazing. And then on June 10th, I have Lori Dash, and I hope you guys can be here. She is an advanced yoga nidra teacher and a mindful meditation practitioner. So she's going to be running a mindful meditation session with us during our hour together. So that ought to be a great program. In closing up here, I just want to make sure that you know that we're focusing on trying to help women in particular, but all kinds of marginalized people get into high-paying technology careers. We are partnering with McLaren Cares to bring a program to Oklahoma that's been used with 5,000 people around the world. Major companies like McDonald's, Xerox, Akamai, State Street, Walgreens, Walmart have used it to get technology talent. And it also will help us create more diversity in the technology talent pipeline. So if you know of any companies that would be interested in talking about that, please connect them with me. Pardon me. If you like this program, you can go to our website and support us. There's a buy a cup of coffee on our website. Love for you to share if you would. And then please do like and share our social media pages. Let your friends know about this webcast. Again, we do it every Friday at 10 Central. Any final comments from any of you? Okay.
Thank you all.
Great job. Thank you so much, Kelly. We love you.
Yeah,
Thank
Power
you.
Packed Hour, loved it. Thank you,
Okay.
Kelly.
Thank you, guys. All right, please remember, purse power, we have it. Let's use it. See you next Friday at 10 Central. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Donna and Kelly.
Thank you.